You've been in business for a while. What do you love most about business? Like, what's your favorite part?
Calculated risks, calculated gambles, betting on myself, the fear of failing. I love all of that.
It's like a mixed bag of emotions.
No, I like that. That's what drives
I know,
me.
but like in a complimentary way. Like it's like in like pieces of the puzzle and all of it together.
It's passion. You got a lot of passion.
Yeah, and that's a word that I describe myself with a lot. A lot of people say, I'm a jerk or I'm an asshole, but I'm very convicted with what I say and how I say it.
I'm passionate. I'm not a jerk.
Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and everything in between. Join us as we take you along our own brokerage building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of business experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney.
And Sean, we got one of your boys on today.
Great guest.
We have Cory Schnabel from Kansas City, Kansas. Cory, how you doing today, man?
Hey, I got to throw a curveball already. Overland Park, Kansas, please, KCK.
Sorry.
They don't have internet in KCK. They don't really have electricity.
He's on the other side of the tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm a
great.
little south of there.
Nice.
No, it's all good.
Thank you for correcting my.
We can run that back.
My local Philadelphia knowledge base, but a little bit about Cory Schnabel here. So he's in insurance. He started out as a producer at Allstate. Also, he transitioned into being an Allstate agent / owner, ran that business for about 4 years and sold it. Then he started his own independent agency called the KC Insurance Group, did that for about 6 years and successfully sold that as well. And then now Cory is with the Plexus Group. He's a VP and the client growth leader focused on business development. Did I get all that right, man?
Yeah. No, all these titles.
Awesome.
You nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it.
Good stuff. So, all right. So I'm going to hit you with something quick because I have a background in this too. So I see you have a background in hospitality. You were a bartender.
Yeah.
And, I personally believe that hospitality transitions and corresponds very well into business and sales and relationship building. So what kind of advantages did you take from hospitality and into insurance to do what you've accomplished?
Yeah, it's so interesting. When I opened my first business, or the first person that got me into Allstate, we bartended together. A couple of my first employees were bartenders, servers, things like that. And they've all had tremendous success. And I really attribute it to you kind of don't know what's coming to sit at your bar, right? Like if you're sitting there, you could serve a $20 drink to a guy in a 3-piece suit in a Porsche, or you could have the college kid that wants $1 Bud Light, right? But your job is to, and I got to steal this from Sean because he kind of, made it hit home yesterday. You're working to make money, right? Like that $20 drink, if they tip you $1 or $20, you don't make anything off the $20 drink, right? Like you're trying to get that money from that guy or girl. And that's where I really feel that the sales world's the exact same. It's that you've got to kind of be a chameleon in that world. You've got to be able to talk this way to that person or talk this way to that person. And, a quote that I'm going to kind of say I came up with is like, I had to learn to understand when I was somebody and understand when I was a nobody in the situation. There's times where I just had to be a fly on the wall and absorb. There's times where I had to be the leader of the battle and, lead the troops in. So it just carries over so well because you're used to talking to people, you're used to making small talk. You're used to having somebody kind of angry that is coming to you to fix a problem, and that could be they got fired. They could have a fight with their wife. And it just seamlessly transitions and you don't know what's up next, right? And you're not working for your $4 an hour, you're working for your $200 in tips that night, and a lot of the salespeople that have been successful for me, as a startup, I wasn't able to pay them big salaries. So they were working for those commissions. I was able to heavily incentivize them on commissions and teach them that if you can go out and be yourself and be authentic and be original, people are naturally going to gravitate to you. So the hospitality industry, just without even knowing it, trains you for the sales world and to kind of be able to be a chameleon.
You have to.
Well said.
You have to, and Cory, we talked about this a little bit. You have to be able to associate with anyone and everyone, right? And being a bartender, being a server, being in hospitality, it absolutely translates to sales, right? Like when you pick up that phone to make that call, you don't know who's on the other end, right? So you kind of have to like speak their language, be able to engage with them. And the more you're able to do that, the more you're going to get people to respond and the more opportunities you're going to get down the road.
You have to have empathy. I mean, I think because I never did bartending, but I did serving. I was also an expediter. I was a dishwasher. I was a cook. I've done
At Friendly's.
At Friendly's, I cooked for the entire restaurant when I was 16 years old. So I had to keep a lot of servers happy with that job. But yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you just said. I think having empathy allows you to bring yourself down to anyone's level, to listen, to be a sounding board. I'm only imagining like being a bartender because I never did that. It's like people come in, sometimes they just want to crush a few beers, drinks, shots, whatever, and you're there to be their friend, to help them through whatever they're going through, whether it's good times or bad.
Yeah, and something that me and Sean didn't really talk about yesterday, but you just kind of sparked my interest. And it's like you're juggling a lot too, right? You're never a sales guy and you're working on one deal, right? It's not like, you have one client and one deal and this. You've got, this guy just called you to start a quote. You're trying to bind this quote. You're trying to get this person under this. You're waiting for an appraisal, just like bartending or serving, right? You kind of
three deep at the bar.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you don't know, you could have a table of 20 walk in and all of a sudden you're going, oh shit, I have to figure out how to get this done. Right. And so I like that. Like, I don't like to prepare for things that are really important. I will prepare for them, my children getting married, I'll prepare for that stuff. Right. But as far as like,
you'll make the exception for the kids.
Yeah, I'll make the exception. Yeah. For those two. But like, I kind of like I don't know what's going to go on. Like, that's what keeps me on my toes. Right. The serving, the bartender, it's like, wow, you got to know what you want to make that night. Right. And there's times where it's absolutely great and you kill it. There's times where you do everything correct and you don't hit your goals. And that's a lot in the sales world as well. Everything can look great. Everything can look perfect on paper, your vision board, your goal board, you're going to do this. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And then you got to pivot. And that's where I think what kind of makes the good people great is the people that can pivot on a dime, change up their flow, and then go on to the next one. I mean, you being in real estate, how hard it's been. I started insurance in 2008, right? With, when everybody was losing their house.
Yeah, you really
got that was my first year. Yeah. April 1st, 2008. Wow. But it made me better of a salesman purely because I didn't know anything. I was this ignorant 24-year-old kid that didn't know how to take no for an answer. And I didn't really understand, what a recession was at 24, right? Like, I mean, it's like, I don't care. I make 40 grand a year. What's it going to do to me? Right. Yeah. So it's just ignorance kind of led me through that. And then as the market started to soften and as, the economy rebounded, I had already been battle tested in 2008. So 2009, 2010, 2011, it's great, because it was so much easier on those type of things.
Cory, one of the reasons we wanted to bring you in because you've had so much success with your relationships, building your business with referrals and centers of influence. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you got started with them and how it kind of catapulted your business and really is kind of the bread and butter for what you guys do?
Yeah. Much like your guys' self, I was in a fraternity. I was a bartender. I was always very social.
What fraternity were you in?
I was Sigma Chi. What about you guys?
Okay, we were Fiji guys. Phi Gamma Delta.
Okay. I didn't want to take off my shirt and have to show you the tattoo I got.
All right, man. I mean, Mooney would have to show you his ass cheek, but we'll save that for another day. 18
years old, full of piss and vinegar. I wanted that frat. Too, right there.
We got buddies. We got buddies that did that.
Yep.
And it's great. It's weathered. It's like tearing. It's faded. It's
your wife loves it. Come on, tell the truth.
It's a staple of me now, right? So it's
like, what is this?
This is right? Exactly. Like what? Like I get asked if it's the Texas flag all the time. It's like the Sigma, the E, and the X, and the flag. And I'm like, well, yes. Didn't think I put the T and A and S on there? Like I don't know. But anyway, so being social, the gift of gab, however you want to frame it, it's always been just very easy for me to communicate with people, to talk with people. So I was telling Sean, the other day, when I bought my Allstate agency in 2010, like, I know this sounds so long ago, but it's like Facebook wasn't that big a deal, right? Everybody didn't have Facebook. Everybody didn't have LinkedIn. Everybody didn't have Instagram. So the social aspect, the text messaging aspect, you still had to be way more human on those type of things, right?
Agreed.
So Allstate was really big with robo dialers, which was before the FDIC shut them down, where we could call 20 people at once, and the second somebody picked up, we would get them on the phone and we would just telemarket it. It was a chop shop for less of better or lack of better words. And they were really big at mailers, like sending out postcards. And being young, being green, I just kind of did it. Much like you two, one of my best friends in the world is a real estate agent as well. And I kind of noticed that as I was chasing down these leads that have a 1% conversion rate, he would send me somebody buying a house. And without even really trying, just kind of taking the educational route, I was making these sales, and closing them at a 50, 60, 70% clip. Whereas I'm writing a $500 check every week for these mailers, hoping to close them at a 1.5% clip. So what really kind of got me on the referral bandwagon, and I'd always loved referrals, and I always kind of spiffed people with gift cards, but I was with the friend I just referenced, his dad, and I was at a Royals game with him, a big Royals fan. So we're out there, and he introduces me. This is when I'm at Allstate. He introduces me to somebody else as his State Farm agent. And I kind of looked at him and I was like as the guy goes around,
Give
like,
him
Dan,
What?
the bump.
So so the guy walks away. I was like, Dan, I call him DOD. I was like, DOD, like, I'm Allstate, right? And he's like, I don't know who you are. I just know that if I send you people or I call you, you take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's when kind of like the light. Yeah. And that's when the light bulb went off. It's like, man, people don't care about Allstate. People don't care about Travelers. People don't care about any of that. Like, Dan wants to refer Cory, because he knows that I'm going to answer the email. I'm going to answer the phone. I'm going to be honest with these people, which, Sean and I talked about that as well. It's like the bar is very low in our industry, which I probably shouldn't announce, but just calling somebody back, emailing somebody back, doing what you're supposed to do to take care of these people is light years above our competition, and working with that industry, that it might be 5 o'clock on a Saturday and you have to do something, right? Or it might be, 6:30 at Tuesday and you got to do something. But if you're going out of your way to take care of them and just letting them know that you're going to put their clients in the best physical spot to be in, that's all I really kind of wanted to relay to these people. And that's all I could really relay, right? Because I didn't have the budget to spiff their events, right? Or take them to a $5,000 club seat event. Like, I didn't have that. All I could kind of was raw and authentically and unapologetically be myself. And that's what it really started gaining the traction. So then I would kind of ping pong my relationships with 1 or 2 real estate agents. And I would say, Dan, you're one of the top 5 real estate agents in Kansas. Who are your 3 favorite mortgage lenders to work with? Jim, Bill, and Susie. Hey, then I'd go to Susie. Hey, Dan spoke very highly of you. I do all Dan's personal insurance. Can I take you to coffee? I bet I've spent thousands of hours in coffee shops with mortgage, real estate, wealth planners, CPA, anybody that wants to get a coffee. And 90% of the time, we don't even talk about our industries. Like, they know that if an insurance guy is reaching out to a mortgage lender, they know the ultimate goal, right? And they've probably had 50 of those coffees if they're good at what they do. So I want to kind of work backwards on that, and say, let's not even talk about what we do. Tell me about yourself, right? Like, who do you like? Who's your sports team? Like, tell me why you got no insurance. Tell me how old your kids are. Tell me what kind of car you drive, because I feel that if I can connect with them on the human element, that everything else is easier, right? Like, I don't want to walk in there and, have their eyes Twitter at all these sparkly objects I'm waving in front of them. Like, I would just want to be myself, and let's connect on a human level. So I just started building it out that way. It sounds so easy, and I can tell anybody how to do it, but you got to knock on doors. You got to do pop buys. You got to do things that other people aren't doing. In a world of automation right now, go shake hands, go make eye contact. That's what we have lost, right? We've lost the, hey, happy birthday. This is a real text message from a real person, because everybody gets the automated things and you can sniff them out if they're automated. So I just think kind of going backwards. If everybody's running towards automation, everybody's running towards ChatGPT, and everybody's running towards AI, I run the exact other way.
The other thing too, we talked about was the cold calling is like, we actually get a good response on cold calling. And I think it's because no one uses their phone to call anyone these days. So everybody's going, the email route or whatever. And it's like, we've been able to hit on quite a bit of cold calls, because I think that people are like, oh, let me see who this is.
Right. Well, cold texting has kind of taken the place of cold calling. And then also it's like, everything you were saying there, I completely agree with. It's know, like, and trust. People. Hey, I know Bill. Bill knows Susie. Like, introduce us, and then see if you and Susie like each other. Like, and if you like each other, then you're gonna build that trust. And
hold on, I got it.
Absolutely,
I'm on the phone. Yeah, you can have one piece of candy. That's it.
I love it. But it's really. And please, you can take a time out for your family. Don't worry about that.
No, I don't need to.
But
I've been stuck in the house 26 of 30 days.
It's like I'm dying for
Close
this.
the door.
Yeah.
Andy.
But so you have getting to know people and then figuring out if you like each other and then building that trust. And that trust, like you said, it's looking people in the eye, it's shaking hands, it's going to that Royals game, it's getting coffee, it's making a call to someone just on a Wednesday at 1 p.m. and you're like, I'm just checking in. Hey, I've been stuck in my house for 26 days like you have. Like, how you holding up? Like, how's business? Like, how's life? How's the family? And that is what builds business over the long term, because you are caring for that person. You show that not only do you care about the relationship, but you care about anything they bring your way. They know it's like, hey, it doesn't matter about Allstate or KC Insurance or even Plexus Group. It matters about Cory. And giving Cory something, I know Cory's going to take that from start to finish with as little pain as possible. He's going to listen to people. He's going to give them a good deal. And then they're going to want to tell their friends what a great guy Cory is for insurance. And that's really what I just heard there. So I think that's fantastic.
Well, and I think we can sum it up in 2 words. Like, I like to be intentional with what I'm doing. If I'm going to, like, I wouldn't say there's an angle, but I want to be intentional. If there's a Tuesday 1 p.m. text message to somebody, like, I want them to know I'm taking time out of my day to write you this message, right? And that's kind of what I want to be. And early, I kind of wanted to be everything to everybody, which I think is just human nature. You're new, you're young, you're kind of full of that pizzazz. But the older I get, and more tenured I get, it's probably better verbiage. I want to be intentional about my relationships. I want to be intentional about the message I'm communicating. I want to be intentional to my employees about how I treat them. So to answer, that question, if you focus on being intentional and looking yourself in the mirror and knowing what you really want, how to get there, I think that's a big part as well.
Yeah, Cory, it's easy for us to want to get out there and build our centers of influence. Did you struggle, or did you find it difficult to get your team to kind of buy into that same kind of mindset, is to like, hey, if we're going to grow, we're going to need to get out there. All right, now get to it. Like, what was, when you were early on trying to build this, what were your team responses in doing that?
I think that's a great question. And I think it goes back to just being crystal clear on the front end. When I was at Allstate and I was hiring people, I think I oversold how cool the job could be. Like, it's insurance, it's boring, right? Like, it's not going to be really cool, but it's like, hey, come do this, come do that. This is great. We'll do all this. So like, you're kind of already starting them off on cloud 9, right? Because like, this is so great. I own this business. I'm going to get the best employees. So then when things get hard, I think it's initially they're like, wait, this isn't really what we talked about. So when I started KC Insurance Group, I almost like tried to talk people out of working for me. I'm like, this is going to be hard. You're going to hate this sometimes.
It's insurance.
If you do what I tell you to do, I promise you'll be successful. And the way I kind of relate that is like the gym, right? If you want to lose 30 pounds and you go to a personal trainer, they're going to tell you literally everything to do. Eat this, do this, get this much sleep. It's just, do you want to do that? Is really what it boils down to. It's the whole, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink type of thing. So I have a very good case study, for lack of a better word, Sean, about that. When we opened KC Insurance Group, we hired 2 girls that were both green to insurance. They were both green to sales. One was an admin at a college. She worked at like a front desk, handling just a lot of the data entry. The other was a stay-at-home mom. And before she was a stay-at-home mom, she was a bartender for like 3 or 4 years. And I told them day one, I'm starting this with my own money. I don't have the budget to give you guys huge salaries without some kind of generating revenue. So we have to hit the streets day one. Like, I can train you on Travelers. I can train you on Easy Links. I can teach you all the insurance jargon, but I can't teach you, what to do when nobody's looking at you and I tell you to go make 10 pop buys. So their name, well, I won't say their names, but I had them go to Dunkin' Donuts. There's a Dunkin' Donuts right by us. And if you're familiar with Brian Buffini at all, he's a real estate coach out of San Diego. He's really big on just pop buys, just doing something without asking anything in return and making it random. And putting some energy into it. So we would go to Dunkin' Donuts every Friday and we would go drop off 5-10 dozen donuts just to local title companies, to escrow offices, to mortgage lenders, to real estate agents. We wouldn't ask to speak to anybody. We would simply put it on their break room, put it on their front desk. We'd grab some of their cards there. We'd go back to the office. And this is where kind of the elbow grease kicks in. So the girls at that time, if they had 20 cards that day, they would email 20 people individually. Hey, Sean, Kristen at KC Insurance Group, I dropped off some donuts for you guys today. I'm sure you have some insurance relationships, but I'd love to take you to coffee and just see if we could connect.
Nice.
That simple. We don't ask about them sending us business. We don't promise them anything, because, and out of those 20 emails, you might get 5 or 6, 7 replies, right? And out of those 5, 6, 7 replies, you might get 2 or 3 people that say, let's go to coffee. And out of those 2 or 3 people, you might only get 1 or 2 good referral sources. But for, let's just call it $60 I spent on that Friday, now I have a referral source for this person. And it might be only 1 or 2 leads a month, but if you get a golden goose out of that, you're getting 10, 15, it's great.
Yeah.
And
It's gold.
It's the start of the relationship, right? It's literally, you're at step 1, right? And so you're going in there saying, we are the best and we have the metrics to back that up. And we want to work with you guys. And here's the kicker. You got to deliver, right? Lots of people can say they're the best, or, lots of, this in your world. Lots of real estate agents are 5-star professionals, voted on top 1%.
I did multi-million-dollar volume. You're like, so?
Yeah, well, or I pulled up the MLS and did you really do that? So
or they sold one house that was $3 million, and then the rest
to their dad. To their dad, right?
You know this business, Cory, because that happens all the time.
Oh, they work for referral only, which means they don't have anybody to work with. So they want a friend. Yeah, hey, send me your cousin. So so that's what we did. We were just getting out there. We were putting names with faces, and we were kind of betting on ourselves, right? Because I knew, with my success at Allstate, that I could be successful in this world. I just had to learn the systems and things like that. So it's really cool when your employees believe in you and they listen to you, because both of the people that worked for me were absolutely green, nothing. One made it. One still works for Hub right now and is making very good money and is very successful. The other one didn't. And the cool thing was, the one that was successful, she did what I told her to do, right? So it's a little self-fulfilling of me saying that, but it's like, man, like if you're a coach, right? And you're like, man, I coach a lot of these kids and they go to D1. Like, I don't want to say like I'm great at teaching, but at the same time, it's like, hey, there's been some really successful people that have kind of came out from under.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and it just kind of reinforces my values of, human connection. That's all that matters, because just law of averages, 1 out of 4 people aren't going to like you from the reason you look, the way you talk, something about it, your bravado. Yeah. So it's like, you don't need to be everything to everyone. You just need to go get those special people that really click with you guys, and that's when you get successful. So we started that in 16. I think 16 we had like 800 referrals that year, which I was smitten with. The next year we were over 1,000, and then we started getting about 12 to 1,500 referrals a year as a little 4-agent shop.
That's amazing.
I love how you're tracking that. We talked about using that as like KPI, tracking this as a metric, because to what you said, it was like, as long as we're doing the process right, everything else is going to follow. The premium will follow, the policies will follow, the client, everything else will follow. It's like getting that one singular process in place and doing it well and doing it over and over and over. And at the end of the year, you've got that awesome number, to look at.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Do you guys have an ability for me to share my screen just so I can throw something real little? I'll show you guys something real quick.
Dylan, can you have
and
that?
It's not a big deal. I was going to double down, Sean, and show you what I built in 2017 that I helped. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Agency Zoom at all, but when Agency Zoom went from just like a pipeline tool to like an AMS type thing, they used a lot of my. I don't want to gloat. They used some of the data that I had been using because I was going to cancel with them. Like, that was my thing. Agency Zoom's kind of it's a big thing in our industry.
Yeah.
And
What's his name? I talked to the guy who
Tolga.
Yeah.
Tolga.
Yep.
So Tolga, they just sold it. They sold it to Verifor, but a few of the guys, a few of the guys are still there. But I was going to cancel them. Like, I've been using them. It's like 16 or 17. They were like $1,000 a year or something like that. I was like, I'm going to cancel you guys. And they're like, why? And I was like, you don't give me, like, the onion isn't peeled back enough. Like, you can tell me how much business I wrote last April. Like, that doesn't really matter to me. It's like, I want to know close ratios by specific referral sources. I want to know when we're hot, when we're not hot. So I built this Excel document out, like where I could just manually add people in there, and I could track it by month. So I could track it by close ratio. So when those funds did start to become more manageable and I had some budgets, I knew where to put my marketing dollars at, right?
And you
Because
can anticipate, you can forecast it, say like, oh, this is usually our slow month, so that you can build in extra activities prior to maybe level that up.
Exactly. So it really just allowed me, because, to your guys' point just a few seconds ago, like if I create this process and I do it well, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy moving forward, right?
Absolutely.
If I know that my salespeople are going to get 30 to 50 quality referrals a month, they can make as much money as they ever want to. It's just that simple, right? Like it's really that simple.
All right,
hold on.
Go ahead.
But built around relationships, right, Cory? I mean, that's the gold in all of it.
It's the gold in all of it, and dispersing dispersing it out, right? Meaning that, like, I'm looking at my numbers right here, and it looks like in 2017, we got 839 referrals. We sold 347 of them at a 42% clip. But the beautiful thing of that, those 839 referrals, they came from about 74 different spots, right? Yep. So it's great, because if somebody moves or somebody gets out of the business, you don't turn off that faucet of 25% of your business, you know? So it's like these people that buy leads and they're doing all these, capturing the data on Facebook and stuff like that. It's like, you just got to keep dumping money into those machines to have it keep printing money on the back end. Whereas like my way, if you can do it and massage it and keep those relationships where they need to be,
it's an upfront investment.
Exactly. With minimal cost. And that's what, Sean, you and me talked about, that, I'm not the best salesman. I'm not the smartest person. I don't have all these insurance certifications.
I mean, Sean's the best salesperson, right? Isn't that what you say all the time? Number one. Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth, so if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the BNR word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show. All right, well, hold on a second. I want to, this is all great stuff. Let me change lanes here, and I would like to hear some of the background on this. So again, you went from being a business owner with a big box insurance company like Allstate. Mm-hmm. Then you said, you know what, I kind of want to do it my way, which is kind of the direction that Sean went, had an independent brokerage at Casey Insurance Group. And then you were able to successfully sell those businesses. Tell me a little bit about, kind of like why that happened, why that was a good move for you to kind of take a step up in your industry with being relationship-based, referral-based. Like what made you go those two different directions and then ultimately decide, hey, I'm going to partner with some other people and keep moving forward?
Luck, happenstance, opportunity, however you want to kind of throw it out there. Like I love the quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it because I'm trying to I think it's good luck is the intersection of opportunity and hard work. I think it's something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to put yourself in positions to capture that good luck when it happens, right? So with both of my business sales, I had put myself on the map already as being really good at what I did. And both times I wasn't selling, somebody came to me to buy. And so to answer your question, in 2013 with Allstate, I was, top 1%. I think it's like inner circle elite, something like that. Wasn't for sale, had no desire to sell. A guy in home office out of Chicago was looking to relocate back to Kansas City. He was I want to be behind the scenes. Let me manage everything. I want you to sell insurance and let me take everything else off your desk. So he came to me with an offer. And, at that point in time, I made a couple $100,000, but for a 27, 28-year-old kid, I was
phenomenal.
Like, yeah. And for a business that I owned for 3 years, so it was one of those things that kind of gave me that taste of success and the taste of, okay, like I know these things are valuable. And don't get me wrong, I knew day one that I was going to sell this eventually. I didn't plan on selling it in 3-4 years, but it's how it happened, So when I sold, I think I closed on that one in 2014. And he asked me to run it for him until like the end of 15. So I knew my last day working for Allstate was 12/31/2015. I knew I wanted to get to the brokerage side. So
Gotcha.
I ran this for him for about a year or so. The summer of 15, I started Casey Insurance Group with a business partner that I bought out in about a year. That's a story for another time. But let's just say I started getting all the contracts in 2015. I opened the doors 2016, and I thought I made the worst decision of my life right out the bat.
Wow.
Because, well, and here's why. Like I was like, I'm overly confident, and if I think I can do something, I can do it. And like I said earlier, like I'm okay with jumping in feet first and then figuring out how to swim, right?
Sure.
And that's what I did here, because while I knew how to sell insurance and I knew how to do all that type of stuff, I didn't know the different nuances between Travelers and Safeco and Nationwide and Chubb. And I didn't know the agency management system. And I didn't know all the downloads. I didn't know the commission. So it's like what I thought was most important about transitioning from captive to a broker of knowing insurance turned out to be the least important thing. So for the first 3 to 4 months, I'm sitting there just every day, like trying to just climb out of, okay, I got to understand this. I got to learn that. I got to know how this goes. I got to do real deal payroll now. Like, so it obviously wasn't the worst decision of my life, but I'm not joking. There was about 90 days going into that where I was like, dude, I just walked away from, at the time, 110 grand a year. I was making so much money at 26, 27 years old. I was like, did I make a horrible decision?
Cory, one of the things I say is, thank God I did. Thank God I didn't know going into it, because had I known like how bad it is, we were talking earlier today, just getting contracts from some of these carriers would my reference was, I was so naive to think like, I'm going to start an agency and then I'm going to call a carrier and say, hey, I want to rep your company. And they like laugh you out the door. And thank God I didn't know all of that stuff, because it probably in a way would have deterred me. Like you, like me, we both were in that Allstate business. I probably would have stayed doing what I did and making the most of that opportunity rather than doing it. I mean, looking back now, it's like, thank God, like this is the best move I could have made. But like having that unknowingness to move forward absolutely helped.
I like to be uncomfortable. I like to be uncomfortable. It makes me a better person. Like I don't like when things are going just perfect. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, it kind of scares me.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you function well with a little chaos.
Yeah. Oh, I love chaos. So, and unlike you, Sean, so we actually got contracts so easy because, our first phone call was like Travelers. And then she's like, well, why should I give you this? So then I showed her my production numbers at Allstate, and she's like, well, shit, if you can do that at Allstate, like you can probably do that over here. And then it's just the domino effect, because you call Nationwide and Nationwide's like, well, give me this. I'm like, well, Travelers gave us a contract. Like, oh, well, Travelers did? Okay. Well, you must be worthy of something. Right. Yeah. So I was able to get all those, but there was no training, right? Like I've told so many people that if you're looking to get into insurance, you're that 22, 24-year-old kid out of college, go work for Allstate, go work for State Farm, go work for Farmers, because they have a rigorous 6 to 10 week training program that will teach you everything you need to know. Make sure you like it and then hop over, to the brokerage side, because it's so much easier to kind of get that ramp up. Whereas if I hire you today owning a brokerage, you're hoping I train you, or I'm hoping the Travelers webinars train you, which you're automatically setting somebody up for failure. And so fast forward, we did good. We wrote $1 million in premium our first year, which my best year at Allstate was like $450,000 in premium. So like I doubled my numbers. Fast forward, everything was great. We killed it. We were always top agent and this type of stuff. And then I hired a kid in like 17, started training him. He got a way better job offer with somebody else. He was a college buddy of mine. Like, dude, go work for them. A company called IMA out of Wichita, Kansas, about 3 hours away. Well, sure enough, I get a phone call from him at the end of 2020, and he's like, hey, how are you, buddy? And I'm like, okay, what do you want?
This is starting off way too friendly.
Yeah. He's a great dude. He's a buddy. He went to high school with my wife, but it's not just the guy that calls you to say, wanted to check in on you.
You're like,
so, weird number. You're looking at the phone like, oh, man.
I know what this is all about before you even say a word.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, whatever. So I answered the call, and he's like, hey, we got a capital infusion. We want to buy a personal lines agency in Kansas City. So I let him wine me, I let him dine me, and do all that type of stuff. I had no interest in selling, but they started talking numbers that were like, oh wow, okay, like that's about 40% more than I was thinking. Because I'm dumb. I'm not that dumb to listen, to some numbers, right? So. yeah, so they kind of started courting me. I hired a business broker who was a friend of a friend. They got a company called Hub International involved. So I had two people kind of going after me. And then the numbers just got to the point where I talked to enough people way smarter than me that said, if you don't plan on passing this down to your kids, or like this isn't something you want to do for the next 20, 25 years, I would take what they're offering, because kind of at that point in time, and the numbers are skewed, but people are getting about 6 to 10x EBITDA for their selling the insurance agencies, and I was getting over 12x. And so that's
Wow.
where, yeah, so the people that were talking to me were like, dude, like the price of this might never be better.
This will not come around
Yeah,
again.
it's like cash out while your stock is high kind of thing.
Exactly. And so I was torn because it was my baby, right? I'd done this for, at this point, 11 years now. I sold in 2021. I opened my first one in 2020. And I sold, and it sucked, whatever. But so now I'm no longer with Hub. I just got out of a nice lawsuit with those guys after about 18, 19 months. Great guys over there. Really, really great guys over there. And now I am vice president of private client growth for a smaller brokerage out of Chicago, which I really, really enjoy. I'm not it's funny that, the owner hired me, and the first thing I told him was like, I'm not a corporate guy. Like I went from a 6-person agency to a 14,000 person corporation at Hub. And I swore I would never go back to corporate America. And it's not corporate America. This is a locally owned business, about 150 employees.
Nice.
His son works there. His son-in-law works there. His daughter works there. So I feel comfortable because I wanted that kind of family environment still, because I connect with real people, right? Like, and so I don't want to climb the corporate ladder per se at a 14,000 person company. Like, I want to connect with people. I want to enjoy my job. I want to know what I do, and I want to know that I'm moving the needle, right? Because I think validation is something that everybody seeks. It's
Totally.
just how do you get that validation? And I learned after that my validation was the success of my business. That it was kind of like my own thing, right? Like my family wasn't in insurance. Like nobody just gave me the keys to the car. Like
Right.
I figured it out myself. And like, I didn't know how proud that made me or how much that validated me until I went through everything like that. But I realize it now. And I realize
awesome.
like, oh yeah, it's like, I mean, both you guys have taken a lot of risks, and I don't know your backgrounds and stuff, like, but if you would have failed, like you would have failed, right? Like, sure,
Right.
you might have been, somebody might have bailed you out, or you might have had some money somewhere, but at the end of the day, you jumped and you didn't land on your feet. And that sucks, but
Yeah.
on the flip side, when you jump and you land on your feet, or you launch into outer space, you're like, that's why, right? And kind of like you were just saying, Sean, people hate change, man. So like, if you could look back and say, man, I can make 130 grand at Allstate a year at 28. It's a lot of money. Like, man, I can maybe make 150 by the time I'm 40, or,
Yeah.
a lot of people, and that's okay. And I'm glad that people want to do that. I'm not. I'm more I'd rather be broke but take the risk.
Yes.
Like
Upside.
Failure motivates me, man. I like to fail. I like to get smacked in the face every now and then. Like it feels good. Like just to kind of get that refresher,
I mean, I agree. I mean, something I always say too is that, you have to fail in order to succeed, because you're not going to truly learn what your level of success looks like or how you're going to succeed in your mind unless there are a couple speed bumps along the way. You fall down, you whack your face, you get up, you dust yourself off. You're like, I'm not going to do that again, because that's what happened. So here's a question we ask, and it's a little bit more of a broad question. Is, you've been in business for a while. What do you love most about business? Like, what's your favorite part?
Calculated risks, calculated gambles, betting on myself, the fear of failing. I love all of that. Like
It's like a mixed bag of emotions.
No, but I like that. That's
no,
what
I know,
me.
but like in a complimentary way. Like it's like in like pieces of the puzzle and all of it together.
It's passion. You got a lot of passion.
Yeah, and that's a word that I describe myself with a lot. A lot of people say, I'm a jerk or I'm an asshole, but I'm very convicted with what I say and how I say it.
I'm passionate.
Right? So
I'm not a jerk.
Yeah, but to your point, you just said, I lost my train of thought. What makes, like, I like that you can mold your business, right? I like that it's on my back, right? I like that if we take this thing to the moon, like, that's me, right? That's cool.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy for that. And guess what? If we have a down revenue year because I slacked off, I like that as well.
Yeah, the highs are high and the lows are low. Peaks and valleys are how you grow, how you scale, like learning from your mistakes. And no, I love that, man, because there's a lot of people that don't tolerate any risk. and they're like, I'm not going to do that. Whether they have a family or not, it doesn't matter. They just look at the world differently. They look at it as like, I want a job. I want to show up. I want someone to tell me what to do. I want my PTO. I want golf on the weekend. I don't want anyone to bother me. And, and I'll get ahead, which is true. I mean, you can do fantastic in corporate America, work your way up the ladder, whether you stick with one company for 30 years or you work for 10, it doesn't matter. But if you have that path and you're just like, you're basically, you're working to live in corporate America. But with us in our roles, I mean, us even doing this podcast, I mean, we're a little bit more live to work. Like, we love what we're doing. Like, we love our families, but we love our jobs. And, it's like, I have people at my company that I look at as family. Christ, my brother is my business partner. So I do have family in the business, but it's just, what I will say is that having peaks and valleys teaches you a ton. And the more you learn, again, in real estate, the last 2023 was a rough year because 20 and 21 and 2022 it was like a rocket ship. It was insane. Like, when quarantine happened, everyone's like, oh my gosh, the world's going to end. And like 3 months later, everyone was like, I want to sell what I have. I want to move here. So it was like every one client it doubled in
Cory,
volume.
from your timing perspective, I didn't even think of this, but if your business was so like on the hip of like real estate and like where your leads were coming from, in terms of like selling your agency prior to like all of this unfolding for 2023, I didn't even get into that with you, but like, talk about that just real quick about like getting that 12X and
stock is high
and getting out before this whole thing went down.
Yeah. So, and that's honestly with the COVID year, like, it kind of, I don't think the word scared me, but it definitely let me know that there's things that can happen in this world that nobody can control as they happen, and the outcome, so the bird in hand versus two in the bush type of thing, where it's like, man, I can take this money, it can, do a lot of good things for me and my family, and I'll kind of figure it out. And I'll be completely honest, when I sold the hub, even though it ended the way it did, it was the happiest day of my life, right? Yeah. Like, I had taken something that I started, with my own money, and I sold it for a couple $1,000,000, and that money hit my bank account. I just remember like that day being like, wow, like life's on cruise control, right? And then it wasn't on cruise control, and it, flipped me back 5 steps, but that's fine. Like, I'm good. Like, I got punched in the mouth. It stings. I'm right back up here, And so to answer your question, it's just, I can't say I was fortuitous looking down the road, knowing what was going to happen. But now that I look at it, it's like, holy cow, man. Like, and me and Sean's were like Nationwide just cut commissions, for renewals, which, okay, does it matter? It's 1%. Well, if you've got $100,000 revenue all of a sudden, and it's a 10% slice now, the value of your book just went down. Mixed in with interest rates, not having free money like it was back in 2020, to your point too, when you were selling your house back there, I have a bunch of neighbors that said, I bought this thing for $550. I can sell it for $850. I'll just take the cash. Rates are 2%. So I'll hop back in when I need to, and so now that's not the case, with interest rates being up, the contracts, you can't get contracts right now with commissions being slashed. So it was just by happenstance that I got out then. But also I'll tell you, if I could rewind, I would never have sold knowing what was down the pipeline, and knowing how much I really cared about that business. And just, it's just cool. And both you guys know this. So like, it's cool when you write yourself your own paycheck every Friday, right? Like, knowing that you did that. Like, sure, you got help from others. We all had help from others, but knowing that, hey, I'm feeding my kids, I'm doing this Christmas. This isn't contingent on my corporate America job, just checking every single box to know that I'm successful. It's like, I really feel like I'm doing something positive.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. Appreciate you sharing all that. And the last one I'll leave you with is, we always ask our guests, what's your go-to quote? And yours was interesting, and I'd love you to kind of like share on it. Yours was, life isn't fair. And I got to say, there's a whole lot.
My favorite.
That.
That's my favorite one.
I'd love to hear why you put that as your quote.
You can be the best person in the world, and you can go, I'm just going to make up this person. You can go to church every Sunday, and you can donate to every charity, and that person dies in a car wreck on Sunday night leaving church. And you're like,
Yeah.
that's not fair. Like, that is absolutely not fair. That person was such a great human being. Why did that happen? And then the same thing, there can be a dirtbag that goes and does one of these school shootings and gets away with it. You're like, life isn't fair, and then you just bring it into a simplistic measure of my kids. We're like, I have a 7 and a 5-year-old. So if I take my 7-year-old to do something, my 5-year-old's like, well, I didn't get to go. Life's not fair. And I just really want people to understand that, like, you can only control so much, and you better fucking control. You're
right, man. Yo, you're all right, man. Don't worry about it.
There's your father's construction.
Yeah, right?
I love it.
But I don't want people to think that, like, everything's fair out there, because it's not. It is not fair. Yeah. And I mean, whether you want to get geopolitical, whether you want to get socioeconomic, life is not fair. But that doesn't mean you don't have a platform to build on. That doesn't mean that you can't just, turn lemons into lemonade. And that's what I want people to come from. It's like, life's not fair, right? It wasn't fair that I got fired from Hub, but guess what I did? And here I am doing something, right? It wasn't fair that this happened. And I just don't like the victim mentality, because it's so easy to be victims now with everything you see online, right? I mean, every other commercial is a lawsuit going, if you went swimming in this pool in Branson, Missouri in 2016, you could be entitled to something. And you're like, oh sweet, I can get. Yeah. So I just want people to, like, forge their path, right? Like, go do something. Life's not fair. Just because you're doing everything right doesn't mean that you're going to hit the jackpot or get that promotion, right? So the things in your life that you can take control of, control the controllables. My staff has heard me say that 500 times. Control what you can control. Don't worry about it if you can't. I mean, what's the purpose? Like, I don't say this to be a jerk, but, like, sports. I'm assuming you guys are Eagles fans, right?
Oh yeah,
Cory.
We're still looking our wounds. Still looking our.
We had to go there.
Yo, if you didn't notice,
I'm not talking this year. I'm talking last year, guys. Super Bowl. Oh yeah. Not even this year.
Well, no.
Wait, isn't there more salt in our wound from last year with you?
One little thing for Cory, the Bricks and Risk logo is the Kelly green for the birds. So
I love it. Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey, we got some relationships here.
All right, make your point, Cory.
But what I'm getting at is, though, us three on this podcast, we can't control the outcome of that game, right? Like, and honestly, you guys played a better game, right? But we did. Nobody says you guys win because that's fair. You guys played a better game.
That flag on the last play of the game, that wasn't fair.
I agree. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, people that just think, hey, if I just do what I'm supposed to do and say what I'm supposed to say, the world's going to take care of me. Nope. It's not. The world doesn't adapt to anybody. You adapt to the world, and that's
but
just
also
something
too. That's a setback. So everybody has setbacks, but the reality is, there's still plenty of opportunity despite those setbacks. And make the most of that opportunity.
It's really amazing advice. And I agree. I've always lived my life as no one owes me anything, and life is what you make of it. So if you work hard, you treat people right, you're honest, you understand how businesses grow, which is really through relationships, you're going to do fantastic. And just wanted to say thank you so much for your time today, Cory. It was an awesome discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Cory. Thank you so much.
Want to thank all the listeners out there. Thanks for tuning in again to another episode of Bricks and Risk. We'll see you soon.
Go Chiefs.
Oh!
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all BNR episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.